शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करभावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்ப. வாகர்த்தாபிவ சம்பிரக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே ஜகதः பிதரோ வந்தே பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வரௌ. ஸ்ரீ பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வராभ्यां நமः. कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी द्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കെന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good evening everyone. Hope you all had a good Navratri. It's been, I think, 1 week break only, but it feels like a really long time since we had the class because we had the Parayanam in between. So Dasakam 80, I think stanza 4 is where we had stopped. So Inniki, let's just see. So Bikram, you can be a student, and Sudha, you can be a student for the first half. Okay. So we'll start with stanza 5. बुद्ध्वा तत्तेन दत्तां नवरमणीं वरमणिं च परिगृह्णन् अनुगृह्णन् मुमागाः सपदि च सत्राजिते मणिं प्रादाः. So we saw last time, right, how that Shemantaka gem, right, was taken, and then Krishna then went looking for it, and he found Prasanna, and then he found the lion, and then he eventually went to Jambavan, and then they both started fighting, right, and Krishna had not revealed who he was. So what happens is, because that the once Krishna went into the cave where Jambavan was, he was there for 12 days. So when he was stuck, when he was fighting for 12 days, at that time, what happens is all the people who had accompanied him, they all thought that probably Krishna has died or something, because they didn't want to go in. So they all ended up leaving back, and they all went back to Dwaraka and then told everyone that probably Krishna has died because we don't have any information about him. So that is happening on one side. So meanwhile, here Jambavan and Krishna and Jambavan think, and I was trying to look for that YouTube video, but I could not find it. So there at one point, Jambavan, he realizes, he sees Rama in front of him. So then he realizes, how can I go and fight against Rama? Because he is one of the number one devotee of Rama. And then he realizes that it's the same person who has actually come in the form of Krishna. So he then, surrenders and he apologizes and everything. And he says that, I don't need this jewel at all. You can just take this jewel. He gives it to Krishna. And Krishna says, I don't want it either. I just want to take it so I can go and prove that it is not my fault, that I did not steal it, right? So Jambavan says, along with it, you also take my daughter in marriage. So then that's how Krishna then gets Jambavati. So Krishna then marries Jambavati. So I think in the beginning of today's class, Krishna was only married to Rukmini. By end of this class, Krishna will have 16,008 wives or 16,108 wives. So we'll see how he goes from one to that, right? So at least 8 names you should remember. The other you don't have to remember. So first one, Rukmini, you all knew. So Jambavati, so that's how he gets married to Jambavati, and then Krishna comes back. And then once he comes back, and then he calls everybody to the court, and then in front of everyone, he narrates whatever happened, and then gives the Shamantaka gem to Satrajit, right, in front of everybody, and says, I did not steal it, but I've recorded it for you. So all of this is not in Narayaneeyam in this much detail. I'm just telling you the backstory. Narayaneeyam Bhattacharya is just telling it in a very quick way. He marries Jambavati, comes back, gives the jewel. That's it. So Budvata Tena Dattam, comma, Navaramanim Varamanim cha Parigrinnan Anugrinanna Mumagaha. So one word and then comma. Sapadi cha Satrajite Manim Pradaha. बुद्ध्वा तत्तेन दत्तां नवरमणीं वरमणिं च परिगृह्णन् अनुगृह्णन्नमुमाघाः सपदि च सत्राजिते मणिं प्रादाः.
बुद्ध्वा तेन दत्तां नवरमणीं वरमणिं च परिगृह्णन् अनुगृह्णन्नमुमागाः सपदि च सत्राजिते मणिं प्रादाः. बुद्ध्वा तेन दत्तां नवरमणीं वरमणिं च परिगृह्णन् अनुगृह्णन्नमुमागाः सपदि च सत्राजिते मणिं प्रादाः.
बुद्ध्वा तेन दत्तां नवरमणीं वरमणिं च परिगृह्णन् अनुगृह्णन्नमुमागाः सपदि च सत्राजिते मणिं प्रादाः. बुद्ध्वा तेन दत्तां नवरमणीं वरमणिं च परिगृह्णन् अनुगृह्णन्नमुमागाः सपदि च सत्राजिते मणिं प्रादाः.
Stanza 6. Tadanusha khalu brilhalolo bilola vilocanam duhitaramaho dhiman bhamam giraiva pararpitam aditamanina tubhyam labhyam sametya bhavanapi pramuditamanastasya vadhanmanim gahanashayah. So then what happens? Satrajit, right? So now when he is given this jewel in front of everyone, so he then realizes that he's made a mistake. He's accused Krishna wrong, right? So then he's worried that now Krishna has come back, given this jewel to me, and I've been the one who accused Krishna, so which means everybody is going to start retaliating against me. So Satrajit is getting very worried. So he then, first he goes and says that you know what, Krishna, I don't want this jewel, you take this jewel. So I think what we'll see today is this Semantaka jewel is going to get people, whoever has it gets problems. That's what is going to happen, right? In this case. So people will try to keep giving it to somebody else all the time. And somebody else will keep getting it and something bad is going to happen. That's the gentle what's going to happen. So he gives the jewel to Krishna. Krishna says, I don't want it. You can keep it yourself. I just wanted to prove that it is not my fault. So now this person feels, Satrajit feels even more awkward and guilty. So he says, you know what? You should get my daughter. Although I have promised my daughter Satyabhama to somebody else, right? I want you to marry Satyabhama. So if you remember the first stanza, Bhattaripat says that you really don't want the jewel. You really want Satyabhama. That's why you kind of did this whole thing, right? Bhattaripat tells about Krishna. So here Satyajit says, you marry my somebody who's even greater than the jewel I have, my own daughter, you can marry. So that's so Krishna then gets married to Satyabhama. So that becomes the third. Tadanu sa khalu vrila lolo, comma, bilola vilochana, comma, duhitaramaho dhiman, comma, bhamam giraiva pararpitam. So bhama, that's her name, that's called Satyabhama. Adita manina tubhyam, comma, labhyam sametya bhavanapi, comma, pramudita manas tasyai vadan manim gahanashayah. Tadanu sakhalu brila lolo bilola vilochanam duhitaramaho dhiman bhamam giraiva pararpitam adita manina tubhyam labhyam sametya bhavanapi pramudita manastasyai vadan manim gahanashayah.
Tadanu sakhalu vrilalolo vilola vilochanam duhitarmaho dhiman bhamam giraiva pararpitam aditamanina tubhyam labhyam sametya bhavanapi pramudita manastasyai vadan manim gahnashayah. Tadanu sakhalu vrilalolo vilola vilochanam duhitaramaho dhiman bhamam giraiva pararpitam aditamanina tubhyam labhyam sametya bhavanapi pramudita manastasyai vadan manim gahanashayah.
Tadanu sakalu vrilalolo vilola vilochanam duhitaramaho dhiman bhamam giraiva pararpita aditta manina tubhyam labhyam sametya bhavanapi pramudita manastasyai vadan manim gahanashayah. Tadanu sakalu vrilalolo vilola vilochanam duhitaramaho dhiman bhamam giraiva pararpita aditamanina tubhyam labhyam sametya bhavanapi pramudita manastasyai vadan manim gahanashayah.
Stanza 7. So the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, the tune is the same, but the tune changes from what we just did. So you can make a note. Vrilakulam ramayate tvai satyabhamam kraunteha daha katayata kurun prayate hi gandineya kritavarma gira nipatya satrajitam shatadhanur manima jahara. So when Krishna was then spending time with Satyabhama, so they were also recently married. So when that was happening, they suddenly hear news from Kurukshetra that from people that the Pandavas have been burnt. Kunti and Pandavas have somehow got burnt. So while Krishna knew what has actually happened, that nothing has happened to them, right? But he then goes along with Balarama. He ends up leaving Dwaraka and going to Kurukshetra. So when that happens, what happens is all these people, so Satrajit had promised his daughter to a few people, right? Or amongst a few people. One was Akrura, Kritavarma, and Shatadhanu. So all the names which comes here, Kritavarma, which comes in the third line, Shatadhanu, which comes in the fourth line. So those are the people who he had said, you know what, potentially you can marry my daughter. And then because they were then going to get the jewel. So when they realized that they didn't get the jewel and they didn't get Satyabhama also, they decided the best way is to get rid of this Satrajit. So they all plot, and then this Shatadhanu eventually goes and kills Satrajit when he's sleeping, and then he takes the Samantaka jewel along with him. So, Vrilakulam Ramayati Tvai Satyabhamam, Kaunteya Daha Kathayata Kurun Prayate He Gandhineya Kritavarma Gira Nipathya, and then put a plus, Satrajitam, and then put a comma. So the third line and then comma after Satrajitam. Shatadhanur Manimajahara, you can say it together. Vrilakulam Ramayate Tvai Satyabhamam Kaunteya Daha Katayata Kurun Prayate He Gandhineya Kritavarma Gira Nipatya Satrajitam Shatadhanur Manimajahara.
Vrilakulam ramayati tvai satyabhamam kaunteya daha katayata kurun prayate He Gandhineya kritavarma gira nipatya satrajitam Shatadhanur manimajahara. Vrilakulam ramayati tvai satyabhamam kaunteya daha kathayata kurun prayate He Gandhineya kritavarma gira nipatya satrajitam Shatadhanur manimajahara.
Rajesh, ஒரு நிமிஷம். அந்த தேர்ட் லைன்ல ஹி காந்தினேவா காந்தினேவா ஒரு புக்ல காந்தினே காந்தி இரண்டாவது தேர்டுதா
இல்ல third one, yeah, Gandhine third
Vrilakulam ramayati tvai satyabhamam kaunteya daha katayata kurun prayate He Gandhineya kritavarma gira nipatya satrajitam Shatadhanur manimajahara. Vrilakulam ramayati tvai satyabhamam kaunteya daha katayata kurun prayate He Gandhineya kritavarma gira nipatya satrajitam Shatadhanur manimajahara.
ராஜஸ்ரீ, ஒரே ஒரு இது, இப்ப ஏன் இந்த இடத்துல நம்ம டியூன் மாத்துற மாதிரி வருது?
Because the meter, the chandas is different.
அதான் the meter-நால. Okay.
Meter-na. Just a meter is different. Otherwise, because if you kind of try to say the Tadanu Sakhalu Brila Mari Brila Kulam Ramayat, it won't land.
Okay. Okay. Meter. Okay. Thank you.
Just purely based on meter. Nothing else. Stanza 8. Shokat Gurun Upagatam Havalokya Kantam Hatva Drutam Shatadhanum Samaharshayastam Ratne Sashanka Iva Maiti Lage Hametya Ramo Gadam Samashishikshata Dhartarashtram. So more complications then happen. So then when Satyabhama, who stayed back, right? So when she comes to know that her father Satrajit has been killed like this, so she gets upset, and then she ends up going to Hastinapur and bringing Krishna back, saying that, my father has been killed, so you have to come and figure something out, what has happened. So Krishna and Balarama come, and they somehow find out that the Shatadhanu is the person who has actually done it. So they get rid of Shatadhanu. So, but what happens is when they are chasing Shatadhanu, when they come back, Shatadhanu realizes that he cannot win against Krishna and Balarama. So what he does is, he first goes to this Kritavarma. If you remember in the previous one, there are three people: Kritavarma, Akrura, Shatadhanu. They all three plotted. Shatadhanu executed it. So he first he goes to Kritavarma and says, you please hold this. I don't want this jewel, because then Krishna and Balarama are going to come after me. He says, I also don't want it. So he also says. Next he goes to Akrura. And says, you hold the jewel. So Akrura says, I'll hold it, but you can't tell anybody. And Akrura keeps it with him. But then when Krishna and Balarama find the Shatadhanu and they get rid of him, they find out that the jewel is not there. So at this time, then Balarama gets a little suspicious. That's what they say, that he gets a little suspicious. So he ends up leaving Dwaraka, and that's when he ends up going and training Duryodhana. All of that is happening, right? He takes Duryodhana as his disciple. So again, Mahabharata stories go there. But anyway, at this point, Balarama gets doubtful. They get rid of Shatadhanu, but they still don't have the Samantaka jewel right now. So, Shokat Kurun Upagatam Avalokya, if you want to break it, Kurun Upagatam Avalokya Kantam, hatva dhrutam shatadhanum samaharshayastam ratne sashanka iva maitila gehametya, comma, ramo gadam sama shishikshata dharta rashtraम शोकात् कुरूनुपगताम् अवलोक्य कान्ताम् हत्वा द्रुतं शतधनुं समहर्षयस्ताम् रत्ने सशङ्क इव मैथिलगेहमेत्य रामो गदां समशिशिक्षत धार्तराष्ट्रम्
शोकात् कुरूनुपगताम् अवलोक्य कान्ताम् हत्वा धृतं शतधनुं समहर्षयस्ताम् रत्ने सशङ्क इव मैथिलगेहमेत्य रामो गदां समशिक्षत धार्तराष्ट्रम् धार्तराष्ट्रम् शोकात् कुरूनुपगताम् अवलोक्य कान्ताम् हत्वा धृतं शतधनुं समहर्षयस्ताम् रत्ने सशङ्क इव मैथिलगेहमेत्य रामो गदां समशिशिक्षत धार्तराष्ट्रम्
शोकात् कुरुन्नुपगताम् अवलोक्य कान्ताम् हत्वा धृतं शतधनुं समहर्षयस्ताम् रत्ने शशङ्क इव मैथिलगेहमेत्य रामो गदां समशिशिक्षित धार्तराष्ट्रम् शोकात् कुरुन्नुपगताम् अवलोक्य कान्ताम् हत्वा धृतं शतधनुं समहर्षयस्ताम् रत्ने शशङ्क इव मैथिलगेहमेत्य रामो गदां समशिशिक्षित धार्तराष्ट्रम्
शिशिक्षत double she and then a
रामो गदां
she இருக்கு சிஷிக்ஷிதர் இருக்கு
शिशिक्षत
சதவாக்ஷி இருக்கு எனக்கு
ஆமா இல்ல ரெண்டு ஷீ இருக்கு ஷீ
அப்புறம் ஷீக்கு வந்து க்ஷி இருக்கு
யா ஓகே ரெண்டு ஷீ and then a ksha
அந்த க்ஷாக்கு பதிலா உங்களுக்கு க்ஷீனே இருக்கு
okay just change that to the third letter, change it to a ksha shishikshata
okay
stanza 9 अक्रूरयेष भगवन् भवदिच्छयैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमनाहृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिमुपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति. So although Krishna knew Akrura has the Shemantaka jewel, he doesn't go and confront him because, in one way, like we said, this is always going to give people lot of mental disturbances. So that's what was happening with Akrura, because now he has it with him. So he's worried that what's going to happen to him next. He's constantly worried about it, right? But the reason Krishna didn't go take it was what Akrura ends up doing is he realizes that if he goes and performs sacrifices like homams and everything, then nobody will touch him at that time, right? Because then you're in the middle of sacrifice. So he goes on a homam spree. So every day and every month, he just constantly praying and constantly worshipping and performing homam, because that way he knows nobody will come and disturb him and nobody will come and kill him or anything. So he says, but that is one reason, why you ended up leaving him, because you thought at least by that he's going to become better, because his mind now completely changes and he's constantly into doing other things so that nothing will happen to him. That's why it's bhavad ichchayeva. It's only because of your willingness you intentionally let him, right, and did not go and reach out to him about this.
Is this the same Akrura who was sent by Kamsa?
Yeah, it's the same Akrura. So what happens is, the next stanza Bhadrapad will say how his mind changed. So they all go through like this swing, like very nice, and then suddenly when they see this jewel which is going to give so much gold every day, everybody's mind starts changing. That's what they start seeing, that everybody who gets it ends up going, in a completely different direction, right? That's why till the end Krishna doesn't take it, because he knows it is to some extent a curse to have that with you, right? And so although he goes and gets it, he always returns it back at every instance of this, right? So Akrura esha bhagavan bhavadichchayaiva, Satrajitaha, put a ich sound, Kucharitasya yuyoja himsam, Akrurato Manim Anahritavan, if you want to break it, Manim Anahritavan Punastvam, comma, Tasyaiva Bhutim Upadhatum iti Bruvanti. Akrurayesha Bhagavan Bhavadichayaiva Satrajitah Kucharitasya Yuyoja Himsam Akrurato Manimanahitavan Punastvam Tasyaiva Bhutim iti Bruvanti.
अक्रूरयेष भगवन् भवदिच्छयैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना हृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिमुपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति अक्रूरयेष भगवन् भवदिच्छयैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना हृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिमुपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति
अक्रूरयेष भगवन् भवदिच्छैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना हृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिमुपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति अक्रूरयेष भगवन् भवदिच्छयैव सत्राजितः कुचरितस्य युयोज हिंसाम् अक्रूरतो मणिमना हृतवान् पुनस्त्वं तस्यैव भूतिमुपधातुमिति ब्रुवन्ति.
Answer 10. Bhaktastvai sthiratarah sahi gandhineyah tasyaiva kapatamati khatamisha jata Vijnanavan prashamavan ahamityudirnam garbham dhruvam shamayitum bhavata kritaiva. So here Bhattaripada is kind of asking what kind of what you were asking Vikram. He's kind of saying the same thing, right? He's saying this Akrura was so devoted to you, right? Oh Krishna, he absolutely was, committed to you. But how could such an evil thought get into his mind that he then planned to get rid of Satrajit, right? They all three of them planned, Kritavarma and everybody planned to get rid of Satrajit, and then he all then wanted to keep this possession of a jewel, and he's keeping it in hiding without telling anybody. So how is all this happening? Maybe he felt so bloated that he had so much knowledge and he had so much wisdom that he somehow felt that ego kicked in, right? That because of which he's actually doing this, or maybe it was the attachment to wealth, like we were discussing. But he says no matter what the reason is, it is bhavata kriteva. It is only because of you willing, because you wanted to teach him a lesson, right? And you felt that by isolating him, because now he has nobody and he's absolutely worried. So what is he doing now? He's resorting to complete worship all the time. So it is only to get him to that state you then decided to do this. Bhattaripada is giving the explanation for that. Bhaktas tvai stirataraha, put a is, stirataras sahi gandhineyaha, comma. So put a visarga at the end of that line and a comma. Next line, if you have a is, that goes away. Tasyaiva kapata matihi, put a ich sound, matih katamisha jata. Vijnanavan prashamavan ahamityu dhirnam, put a plus, garvam dhruvam shamayitum, and then a comma. So third line plus fourth line after shamayitum, comma, bhavata kritaiva. Bhaktastvai sthirataras sahi gandhineyah tasyaiva kapatamate katamisha jata Vijnanavan prashamavan ahamityudirnam garbham dhruvam shamayitum bhavata kritaiva.
भक्तस्त्वयि स्थिरतरः सहि गान्धिनेयः तस्यैव कापतमतिः खतमीश जाता विज्ञानवान् प्रशमवान्नहमित्युदीर्णं गर्वं ध्रुवं शमयितुं भवता कृतैव भक्तस्त्वयि स्थिरतरः सहि गान्धिनेयः तस्यैव कापतमतिः खतमीश जाता विज्ञानवान् प्रशमवान् अहमित्युदीर्णं गर्वं ध्रुवं शमयितुं भवता कृतैव.
भक्तस्त्वयि स्थिरतरः सहि गान्धिनेयः तस्यैव कापतमतिः कथनीश जाता विज्ञानवान् प्रशमवान् अहमित्युदीर्णं गर्वं ध्रुवं शमयितुं भवता कृतैव भक्तस्त्वयि स्थिरतरः सहि गान्धिनेयः तस्यैव कापतमति कथनीश जाता विज्ञानवान् प्रशमवान् अहमित्युदीर्णं गर्वं ध्रुवं शमयितुं भवता कृतैव.
Stanza 11. यातं भयेन कृतवर्मयुतं पुनस्तमाहूय तद्विनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुब्रतधरे विनिधाय तुष्यन् भामा कुचान्तशयनः पवनेशपायाः. So Akrura, like he said, he became very restless because of this, because he had this and he was worried what's going to happen. And then he also ended up deciding to flee the city. He ended up running away, right? Because he was so concerned. Then Krishna then also then realizes maybe it's time. He has learned his lesson. So Krishna then calls Akrura to the court and then tells in front of everybody that Akrura, I know you have the jewel and you can keep the jewel. I just want you to tell everybody that you have it so that Balarama is still suspicious that I might have stolen it. So just to clear my name, you just bring the jewel out and then you can keep it. So Akrura does it, and then then everything gets resolved, and then Krishna lets him have it, and finally he gets it. And then what he essentially does is, although he's in possession, he gives it to the kingdom, right? Because I was saying, he generates gold every day, so whatever he was generating, he gave it back to the kingdom, and then so that way things got resolved, right? So that's how this ends. Yatam bhayena kritavarma yutam punasta. If you have punasta and then mahuya in the next line, you put a im at the end of this line, punastam, and then put a plus, and then you say ahuya. So it continues, but then you say punastam plus ahuya tad vinihitam cha manim prakashya. So both those lines are together. Tatraiva subrata dhare vinidhaya tushyan, comma, bhama kuchanta shayanaha, put a f, shayanah pavanesha payaha. So you then lived with Satyabhama happily. Oh, please, Lord of Guruvayur, protect me. Yatam bhayena kritavarmayutam punastamahuya tadvinihitam cha manim prakashya tatraiva subratadhare vinidhaya tushyan bhama kuchanta shayanah pavanesha payaha.
यातं भयेन कृतवर्मयुतं पुनस्तमाहूय तद्विनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुव्रतधरे विनिधाय तुष्यन् भामाकुचान्तशयनः पवनेशपायाः यातं भयेन कृतवर्मयुतं पुनस्तमाहूय तद्विनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुव्रतधरे विनिधाय तुष्यन् भामाकुचान्तशयनः पवनेशपायाः
यातं भयेन कृतवर्मयुतं पुनस्तमाहूत्य तद्विनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुव्रतधरे विनिधाय तुष्यन् भामाकुचान्त शयनपवनेशपायाः यातं भयेन कृतवर्मयुतं पुनस्तमाहूत्य तद्विनिहितं च मणिं प्रकाश्य तत्रैव सुव्रतधरे विनिधाय तुष्यन् भामाकुचान्त शयनपवनेशपायाः.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Sorry,
Raj.
Purna, you had a question?
Yes, Rajesh. The fourth line, they have given Bhama Kuchan Tarashayah. So I need to change it to Shayanaha.
Kuchanta Shayana means just Shayana is like the lying down, right? That's all it is. So lying down on her chest. That's what it is. So Bhama Kuchanta Shayana Shayanaha is there. So you can put a F, Shayanah Pavanesha Payaha.
Okay.
Okay. So with that, we'll go to 81. So 81 actually has a lot of things happening, but I think the primary heading, at least in my book, it says is Narakasura Vadha Varnanam is the heading that is there. But this is also the place where Krishna gets married, right? A lot of other marriages also happen, right, in this chapter. So stanza 1. Snigdham mugdham satatamapitam lalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas sahakalutaya yajñaseni vivaham partha prityai punarapi mana gastito hastipuryam shakra prastam puramapi vibho sambidhaya gato bhuhu. So in this chapter and a few other chapters, lot of Mahabharata stories come. So I won't get into the detail of it. I'm just going to skim from the top because otherwise we'll end up just talking about Mahabharata, right? So short, what's happening is Yajñaseni, the daughter of Yajñasena, which is Draupadi. So her vivaham is happening, marriage is happening. So you all know that story. So when that happens, then Krishna, because Partha is Krishna's most favorite person, so he along with Satyabhama are going there to Hastinapur to spend some time with Arjuna. So that is also the time where Dhritarashtra decides to give half the kingdom or some portion of the kingdom to Pandava. So they get a portion of the kingdom. So then they get this portion called as Khandava Prastha, which is a place which is completely, it is cursed by Indra. So that place, nothing is this, woods and everything is there, but there's nothing, you can't live there. So then what they prayed, then Agni do some forest fires, that entire place gets burnt. So there is a war, that actually battle that happens between Indra and Arjuna. And then at one point, then Indra realizes who Arjuna is and all the strength and everything, and that's why that place becomes called as Indraprastha. And Indra says, okay, you take that place, I won't interfere. So that Khandava Prastha becomes Indraprastha, which is now Delhi, right? So that's how the name Indraprastha came, because of Indra letting the thing happen. So anyway, so then they call Vishwakarma, and then they construct that palace which you all know, which is where Duryodhana ends up slipping and falling and all those things, right? So which is, it looks water is there, but there's no water, all those things. So all of that, then Vishwakarma ends up building that palace. So you spend some time with them, and then you and Satyabhama come back, return to Dwaraka. So Snigdham Mugdham, comma, Satatamapi tam lalayan Satyabhamam yato bhuyaha, put is bhuyas saha khalu taya, comma, yajñaseni vivaham. Snigdham mugdham satatamapi tam lalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas saha khalu taya yajñaseni vivaham.
Snigdham mugdham satatamapitam kalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas saha kalutaya yajñaseni vivaham.
Vikram, on the first line, Lalayan Satyabhama.
Lalayan. Nana chana?
You said something else. Anyway.
Okay. Snigdham mugdham satatamapitam lalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas saha kalutaya yajñaseni vivaham.
Snigdham mugdham satatamapitam lalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas saha kalutaya yajñaseni vivaham. Snigdham mugdham satatamapitam lalayan satyabhamam yato bhuyas saha kalutaya yajñaseni vivaham.
Partha Prityai Punarapi, comma, Managastito Hasti Puryam, comma, Shakra Prastam Puramapi Vibho. Shakra refers to Indra. So Shakra Prastam is Indra Prastha, right? Shakra Prastam Puramapi Vibho, comma, Sambidhaya Gato Bhuhu. Partha Prityai Punarapi Managastito Hastipuryam Shakra Prastam Puramapi Vibho Sambidhaya Gato Bhuhu.
Partha Prityai Punarapi Managastito Hastipuryam Shakra Prastham Puramapi Vibho Samvidhaya Gato Bhuhu. Partha Prityai Punarapi Managastito Astipuryam Shakra Prastham Puramapi Vibho Samvidhaya Gato Bhuhu.
Partha Prityai Punarapi Managastito Hastipuryam Shakra Prastham Punarapi Vibho संविदाया गतो भूः
Sudha, the fourth line, Puramapi.
पुरम् पार्थप्रीत्यै पुनरपि मनागास्तितो हस्तिपुर्यां शक्रप्रस्थं पुरमपि विभो संविदाया गतो भूः.
Stanza 2. Bhadram bhadram bhavadavarajaam kauravenatyamaanaam twadvachatam ahritam kuhanamaskari shakrasunuhu tatra kruddham balamanunayan pratyagastena sadham shakraprastham priyasakhamude satyabhama sahayah. So not just multiple marriage that happens with Krishna, but even Arjuna. So first stanza, Arjuna gets married to Draupadi, right? So then you all know the story where the Pandavas, right? They had this rule where when one of the person is with Draupadi, nobody else can enter into the chamber. So once it so happens that Arjuna's bow is stuck in one of the chamber where Yudhishthira is there, right? So he had to go take it because he had to go help somebody. So because he enters, he then puts a self-imposed exile, 12 years exile Arjuna puts on himself, saying that he will leave because he entered into the chambers, right? Without, it was not his time. So then at that point, he's roaming around, right? But then he had to come, he comes to Dwaraka because he was very interested in marrying Subhadra, who is Krishna and Balarama's sister, Subhadra. So he comes as a devotee of Shiva. He comes as a sadhu, a devotee of Shiva. So when he comes there, Krishna sees him and Krishna realizes it's Arjuna, and Arjuna tells what his intent is. Krishna says, but Balarama wants Subhadra to marry Duryodhana. So he says, however, he says, I will give you an opportunity to meet Subhadra one-on-one. And if Subhadra also likes you and wants to marry you, I will make sure this marriage happens. So then he gives a chance, and then Subhadra and Arjuna meet, and they both like each other. So Krishna then plans them to escape. So Krishna then plans, then Arjuna ends up abducting Subhadra to some extent, and then they run away or go in the chariot, and Krishna helps out. So Balarama gets very angry because all this is happening, and all that's a different story. Then Krishna then consoles Balarama and everything. So that's what is happening. So then Arjuna's 12 years of exile gets over. So all this is 12 years is passing between this stanza to this stanza, right? So 12 years exile gets over, and Krishna then goes ahead with Satyabhama Sahayaha. Along with Satyabhama, you also go to Indraprastha, where Arjuna is there, along with Subhadra. Bhadram Bhadram Bhavada Varajam Kaurave Nartya Manam, Twadvacha Tam Ahrita, Kuhana Maskari Shakrasunuhu. So Kuhana Maskari is referring to a sadhu, a saint. Kuhana is like a fake sadhu. So he's going like a fake sadhu. That's what he's telling here. Bhadram Bhadram Bhavada Varajam Kaurave Nartyamanam Twadvachatam Ahritam Kuhana Maskari Shakrasunuhu.
Bhadram Bhadram Bhavadavarajam Kauravenarthyamanam Twadvachatamahृta Kuhanamaskari Shakrasunuhu. Bhadram Bhadram Bhavadavarajam Kauravenarthyamanam Twadvachatamahृta Kuhanamaskari Shakrasunuhu.
Bhadram Bhadram Bhavadavarajam Kauravenartyamanam Twadvachatamahृta Kuhana Maskari Shakrasunuhu. Bhadram Bhadram Bhavadavarajam Kauravenartyamanam Twadvachatamahृta Kuhana Maskari Shakrasunuhu.
Tatra Kruddham Balam Anunayan, Pratyagastena Sardham, Shakra Prastham Priya Sakha Mude, Satyabhama Sahayaha. Tatra Kruddham Balam Anunayan, Pratyagastena Sardham, Shakra Prastham Priya Sakha Mude, Satyabhama Sahayaha.
Tatra kruddham balamanunayan pratyagastena sardham shakra prastham priyasakhamudhe सत्यभामा सहायः तत्र क्रुद्धं बलमनुनयन् प्रत्यगास्तेन सार्धं शक्रप्रस्थं प्रियसखमुदे सत्यभामा सहायः
तत्र क्रुद्धं बलमनुनयन् प्रत्यगास्तेन सार्धं शक्रप्रस्थं प्रियसखमुदे सत्यभामा सहायः तत्र क्रुद्धं बलमनुनयन् प्रत्यगास्तेन सार्धं शक्रप्रस्थं प्रियसखमुदे सत्यभामा सहायः.
Okay, we'll switch halfway. Purna, you can be a student, and Rupa, you can be a student. Stanza 3. तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः भ्रातुत्रस्तां प्रणयविवशां देवपैतृष्वसेहीं राज्ञां मध्ये सपदि जहृषे मित्रविन्दाम् अवन्तीम्. So this Kalindi, like we had said I think once before, it is the goddess of Yamuna. So Yamuna is also called as Kalindi, right? So this goddess, the goddess of Yamuna, so she's very interested in Krishna, right? Because even when Krishna was born, when Vasudeva was taking Krishna, Yamuna parted and gave way, and then we saw how in Vrindavan, right, wherever Krishna went, Yamuna was there everywhere. So Kalindi was really in love with Krishna. So she approaches Krishna, and Krishna then marries Kalindi. That is number 3. So we first spoke about 4. We spoke about Rukmini, then we saw Jambavati, then we saw Satyabhama 3, then this is Kalindi 4. Then the 5th one, and this word Paitrishvaseim is going to come again. Paitrishvaseim means father's sister's daughter. Okay, so father, sister's daughter. So here there is this this person Mitravinda, that is the name of the princess. So she was in love with Krishna. Krishna also liked her, and then she had brothers, but they were all allies of Duryodhana. So but however there was a Swayamvara where Krishna goes, and Mitravinda ends up picking Krishna as her groom, and then they both, but however all the other kings there were opposing because they didn't want that to happen, and they battle out and everything, and essentially you marry Mitravinda. So here Kalindi and Mitravinda are the other 2 people. At the end of the class I'm going to quiz, and you have to tell me in sequence what the 8 names are, or until whatever we finish. So तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः. तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः.
तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः. तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगमः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः.
तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दी नगरमगमः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः. प्रीणिताग्निः. तत्र क्रीडन्नपि च यमुना कूलदृष्टां गृहीत्वा तां कालिन्दीं नगरमगः खाण्डवप्रीणिताग्निः.
Rupa, on the second line, Nagaramagamaha.
Nagaramagamaha.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go second so that I will not change the tune.
You're going to put pressure on me. Instead of Rupa, you're saying, okay, you'll change the tune on me. Okay, no worries. Bhratu trastam pranaya vivasham, deva paitrushva seyim, rajñam madhye sapadi jahrushe, mitravindam avantim. So Avanti is the name of the region. So princess of Avanti, Mitravinda. So Mitravindam Avanti. Bhratutrastam pranaya vivasham devapaitrusvasehi rajñā madhye sapadi jahrishe Mitravindam Avantim. Go ahead, Rupa. I think Rupa froze. Go ahead, Purnaya.
Okay.
Oh, Rupa, you're back now. Somehow you.
Bhratrastam pranaya vivasham deva paitrishvaseim rajñā madhye sapadi jahrishe mitravindam mavantim.
Mitravindam Avantim. If you break it as im, it becomes a next.
Mitravindam mavantim.
Yeah.
Bhratrastam pranaya vivasham deva paitrishvaseim rajñā madhye sapadi jahrishe mitravindam mavantim.
Bhratritrastam pranaya vivasham deva paitrishvaseim rajñām madhye sapadi jahrishe mitravindam avantim. Bhratritrastam pranaya vivasham deva paitrishvaseim rajñām madhye sapadi jahrishe mitravindam avantim.
Stanza 4. Satyam gatva punarudavaho nagnajinnandanam tam badva sapta picha vrishavaran saptamurtir nimeshat bhadram nama pradaduratate deva santardanadyas tatsodharya varada bhavatas sapi paitrushvasehi. So we all know, right? So Narayana, the consorts of Narayana, it's Sri Devi, Bhu Devi, and Nila Devi, three of them, right? So Sri Devi, also Lakshmi Devi, right? So that we said Rukmini is the incarnation of Lakshmi Devi who has actually come. And Bhu Devi, the incarnation is Satyabhama, has come as one of the incarnations of Bhu Devi. So this third person is there, Nila Devi, who is there. So that Nila Devi is this daughter of Nagnajit. Her name is Nagnajiti. She's the daughter of Nagnajit is the father's name. Nagnajiti is her name. So she is the incarnation of the third consort, right, which is Nila Devi. So this Nagnajit is Yashoda's brother. So it's Krishna's mama's daughter, right? So they then have a Swayamvaram there where this Nagnajit is her father. The king says, whoever comes and then can tackle 7 bulls, who can tame 7 bulls, can marry my daughter, because he wants to get to the person who's the strongest. So Krishna then he also goes to the Swayamvara, or the place that is happening, and then he then goes and takes 7 different forms. So Sapta Murtir Nimeshat, you take 7 different forms and then you tame the 7 bulls, and then that's how we end up marrying Nagnajiti. I don't know in whose house, in somebody's house I saw this Golu Bommai of Krishna taming a bull. Unga veetliya Vikram? Yeah, okay, I don't know. Or Vijaya, unga veetli, I don't remember. Somebody's house I saw that there was this one Bommai of Krishna like taming a bull, like fighting with a bull, taming it. I don't know whose house. Anyway, so that is happening in the first 2 lines. Next, the third, the one after that is Bhadra. That is the other princess. So she is Paitrushvasei, like I said earlier, father's sister's daughter. So all mama ponnu, atte ponnu, for those who understand Tamil, right? so another Paitrushvasei here. So he marries her, Bhadra. So in this case with Bhadra, there was no confusion, no conflict or anything. They were also happy. Krishna is also happy, and she had 5 brothers, and they also had no issues with it. And it was you married her then. So Satyam Gatva Punaru Davaho Nagnajin Nandanam Tham. So continues and then comma. Badwa Saptapi Cha Vrishavaran, comma Sapta Murtir Nimeshat. Satyam Gatva Punarudavaho Nagnajin Nandanam Tam Badhva saptapi cha vrishavaran saptamurtirnimeshat.
Satyam gatva punarudavaho nagnajinnandanam tam badhva saptapi cha vrishavaran saptamurtirnimeshat. Satyam gatva punarudavaho nagnajinnandanam tam badhva saptapi cha vrishavaran saptamurtirnimeshat.
Satyam gatva punarudavaho nagnajinnandanam tam badhva saptapi cha vrishavaran saptamurtirnimeshat. Satyam gatva punarudavaho nagnajinnandanam tam badhva saptapi cha vrishavaran saptamurtirnimeshat.
Bhadram nama pradadurata te deva santardhanadhya is there. You put a plus first, and then the next line there is a is. You move that is to the end of the third line. So santardhanadhyas tatsodarya, and then a comma. So third line continues, comma after tatsodarya. Varada bhavataha put a is sapi paitrushva seyi. Bhadram nama pradaduratate deva santardhanadhyastatsodarya varada bhavada sapi paitrushvasehi.
Bhadram nama pradudhuratate devasantardhanadhyastatsordarya varada bhavatas sapi paitrishvaseyi. Bhadram nama pradudhuratate
Pradadurata.
Bhadram nama pradadhuratate devasantardhanadhyastatsordarya varada bhavatas sapi paitrishvaseyi.
Rupa, on the fourth line, first word, tatsodarya. I heard darya, tatsodarya.
Tatsodarya varada bhavatas sapi paitrishvaseyi.
Yeah.
Rajesh, ஒரு quick question. அந்த கடைசியில பைத்ரேஷ்வ சேயிமா இம்மா இல்லனா ஈதான்
பைத்ரேஷ்வ சேயி தான் அது because and I'll tell you why. It is like if in this case it is saying she is your father's sister's daughter. Is father's பைத்ரேஷ்வ சேயி, she is that person. There in the இதுல வந்து அதுல எங்க வருது Deva Paitrashvaseyin. So you were in love with your father's sister's daughter. அப்படி வருது. So in Sanskritல வந்து like you're putting in im and im or e, that will decide, short e, long e will decide the context of the word.
Okay.
So here it was just you are just she is அவ்வளவுதான். Seyi means you are in love with her. அதனால.
Oh.
Yeah, so in the case like it is just no im at the end. It's just Paitrashvaseyi.
Bhadram nama pradadurathate deva santardhanadhyas tatsodaryam. Sorry. Bhadram nama pradadurathate deva santardhanadhyas tatsodaryam varada bhavatassapi paitrishvaseyi.
Purna, there is no, did you say tatsodaryam? Did you put a im there? There's no im.
It is there. Okay. Okay, I removed it. Okay. Bhadram nama pradadurathate deva santardhanadhyas tatsodarya varada bhavatassapi paitrishvaseyi.
Stanza 5. Partadhairapyakrutalavanam toyamatrabhilaksham laksham chitva shaparamavృతాః lakshmanam madrakanyam ashtavevam tava samabhavan vallabhastatra madhye shushrotatvam surapatigira bhaumaduscheshtitani. So then what happens is that was that the trend at that time was, if you want to marry, if the king wants to say that my daughter is the most precious and I want to get her married to the best person, It is you have to look into the water and shoot the fish on the top. So it did not happen just in Draupadi's case, it also happened in this case. There's another person by name Lakshmana is there, a female, a princess by name Lakshmana. And so here it says even Arjuna could not shoot it. So even Arjuna, although he hit it for Arjuna was there in the Swayamvaram, but even Arjuna could not fire it because it was even more difficult, because Draupadi had already set a precedent. Now the next princess father is like, my daughter is even more precious, I'm going to keep it even more complicated. So it was even more difficult, and Arjuna could not hit it, and Krishna ends up hitting it. And then you end up marrying Lakshmana, who is the Madra Kanya, who is the daughter of Madra, whose the king's name is Madra. That's what is happening there. And then Ashtavevam. So now he says, thus you are married to 8 people. So who can look, without looking at the book, tell me who the 8 are?
I can try.
Rukmini,
Jambavati,
Jambavati,
Kalindi,
Kalindi, Avanti, Nagna,
Mitravinda. Mitravinda.
Lakshmana.
Mitravinda. Mitravinda. Nagnajita, Bhadra, Lakshmana.
Nagnajita, Satya, Lakshmana.
Satya, Nagnajita are same thing.
Bhadra, Lakshmana.
So Rukmini, it starts with Rukmini, Jambavati, Satyabhama, then Kalindi he marries, then Mitravindam, Avanti, that Mitravinda, then Nagnajiti or Satya, it's the same thing. Nagnajiti and Satya are the same people. Bhadra and then Lakshmana are the 8, right? Even in the 8 there are names, right? So this is anybody, it's a quiz question, right? So Parthadhyair Apyakrita So Parthadhyair Apyakrita comma, Toya Matrabhilaksham, comma, Laksham Chitva Shapharam Avritaha. So put a visarga there, you may not have it, put a visarga there and a comma. Lakshmanam Madra Kanyam. Parthadhirapyakrita toyamatrabhilaksham laksham chitva shaparam avritaha Lakshmanam Madra Kanyam.
Parthadhairapya Krita Toyamatrabhilaksham Laksham Chitva Shaparamavritaha Lakshmanam Bhadrakanyam.
And one small rupa, and the first line Parthadhyair, Dhyair.
Parthadhyair, Parthadhyairapya Krita Toyamatrabhilaksham Laksham Chitva Shaparamavritaha Lakshmana Madrakanyam.
Parthadhyairapyakrita toyamatrabhilaksham laksham chitva sapharamavruthah Lakshmana madrakanyam. Parthadhyairapyakrita toyamatrabhilaksham laksham chitva sapharamavruthah Lakshmana madrakanyam.
Ashtavevam tava samabhavan vallabhas tatra madhye, comma, shushrota tvam surapati gira, comma, bhauma duscheshti tani. So I forgot to tell that meaning. So when you were then spending time with your 8 wives there, Indra at one point comes and complains that this Bhauma, who is the son of Bhumi Devi, Bhauma or Narakasura as he's called, right? Because he was the Asura who was like in Narakam, right? That was Narakasura, but his name is Bhauma, who is the son of Bhumi Devi. So this Bhauma ends up taking Diti, the Aditis, the mother of Indra's, she had some precious earrings. And this Bhauma, he ends up going and stealing those which are very precious. So Indra comes and complains that he's uncontrollable, and we'll see why he was uncontrollable, right? So he comes and takes it. So Indra comes and says, Krishna, it's time for you to help me out and get rid of this Bhauma, right? Ashtavevam tava samabhavan. Okay. Ashtavevam tava samabhavan vallabhas tatra madhye shushrodatvam surapati gira Bhauma duscheshtithani.
अष्टावेवं तव समभवन् वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये शुश्रोतस्त्वं सुरपतिगिरा भौममुच्चेष्टितानि.
Bhauma duscheshtitani.
Yeah, correct. Bhaumaduscheshtitani.
Yeah, duscheshti means one who performs sort of evil deeds.
अष्टावेवं तव समभवन् वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये शुश्रोतस्त्वं सुरपतिगिरा भौमदुश्चेष्टितानि.
And Rupa, third line, there's no pause, okay? Just pause at the end.
Okay. वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये.
अष्टावेवं तव समभवन् वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये शुश्रोथत्वं सुरपतिगिरा भौमदुश्चेष्टितानि. अष्टावेवं तव समभवन् वल्लभास्तत्र मध्ये शुश्रोथत्वं सुरपतिगिरा भौमदुश्चेष्टितानि.
Stanza 6. Smrita yatam pakshiprabaramadiruಢस्त्वमगमो vahannanke bhamam upavanamivarati bhavanam vibindhan durgani trudita pritana shonhitarasaihi puram tavat pragjyotisham akuruta shonhitapuram. So smriti means just to think, right? Just hearing. So just by thinking smrita yatam, when you thought about it, because now Krishna had to go and get rid of Narakasura, then your Garuda just comes. Because you thought about it, Garuda comes. So Garuda comes, and in this case, Krishna and Satyabhama both are going. And here Satyabhama is sitting on your lap, and you both are going on Garuda. So there's actually one photo, you'll frame also, I remember seeing very small, one photo of Krishna going on Garuda and then Satyabhama sitting on his lap. So they both go. I'll tell you why Satyabhama ends up going later, because that comes. So they both end up going to this place where Narakasura is, and then he's saying you are going as if you're going to a garden. Both of you are just casually going there, and then you go there, and then you first get rid of all the fortification that Narakasura has. You get rid of all the fortification and defeat all his army. All of that is getting completed in this stanza. Smrita yatam, comma, pakshi pravaram adiruಢas tvamagamo, comma, vahannanke bhamam. So put a im there and a comma, bhamam. Next word starts with the u. Upavanam ivarati bhavanam. Upavanam ivarati bhavanam. Smrita yatam pakshipravaramadirudhastvamagamo vahannanke bhamam upavanam ivarati bhavanam.
स्मृता यातं पक्षिप्रवरमधिरूढस्त्वमगमो वहन्नग्ने भामा उपवनमिवाराति भवनम्.
Upavanam ivarati bhavanam.
उपवनमिवाराति भवनम्.
Yeah.
स्मृता यातं पक्षिप्रवरमधिरूढस्त्वमगमो वहन्नग्ने भामा उपवनमिवाराति भवनम्.
Yeah. And the second line, first word, vahan ing sound. Vahan anke.
Vahannange.
Yeah, correct.
Vahannange.
मृतायातं पक्षिप्रवरमधिरूढस्त्वमगमो वहन्नङ्के भामाम् उपवनमिवाराति नगरम्.
Bhavanam. Ivarati bhavanam.
स्मृतायातं पक्षिप्रवरमधिरूढस्त्वमगमो वहन्नङ्के भामाम् उपवनमिवाराति भवनम्.
Vibindhan durgani trutita prithana shonita rasaihi, comma, puram tavat pragjyotisham. So that ma that is there, put a im, pragjyotisham, and then a comma. Next word starts with a. Akurutaha, put a ish, akurutash shonita puram. विभिन्दन् दुर्गाणि त्रुटितपृतना शोणितरसैः पुरं तावत् प्राग्ज्योतिषम् अकुरुता शोणितपुरम्.
विभिन्दन् दुर्गाणि त्रुटितपृतनाशोनितरसरैः पुरं तावत् प्राग्ज्योतिषम् अकुरुतशा शोणितपुरम्.
Akurutash.
अकुरुताश् शोणितपुरम्.
And the third line, right? You can say it as Trutita Prithana Shonita Rasaihi.
त्रुटितपृतना शोणितरसैः. विभिन्दन् दुर्गाणि त्रुटितपृतना शोणितरसैः पुरं तावत् प्राग्ज्योतिषम् अकुरुताश् शोणितपुरम्.
विभिन्दन् दुर्गाणि त्रुटितपृतना शोणितरसैः पुरं तावत् प्राग्ज्योतिषम् अकुरुथा शोणितपुरम्. विभिन्दन् दुर्गाणि त्रुटितपृतना शोणितरसैः पुरं तावत् प्राग्ज्योतिषम् अकुरुथा शोणितपुरम्.
Okay, we'll probably do one or two more and we can stop. Murastvam panchasyo jaladivanamdhyadudapatate sachakre chakrena pradalita shiramangshu bhavata chaturdantai dantavalapati bhirindhana samaram ratangena chitva narakamakaroostirna narakam. So first, after the fortification is destroyed, the first person who comes, now Krishna is also called Murari, right? The reason he's called Murari is because he gets rid of Mura. So that Mura is one of the main commander in chief for Narakasura. So this Mura is supposed to be like, he's a 5-face, he's got 5 faces. So Mura Panchasyo, 5 face. So he's living like in the moat. So around this they have the moat and he lives underwater. So he then first comes for a battle, and there's a long battle description that is there, but Matripad is just saying very easily that he comes for a war, and then you get rid of this Mura, this 5-faced Mura, and then when you get rid of him, then Narakasura that gets even more agitated, and Narakasura now comes to battle. Now there are multiple stories around what happens, right, when Narakasura comes to battle. So one of them is very simply saying that Krishna then gets rid of Narakasura. That is one story, very straightforward story. And the question comes is, why is Satyabhama needed, right? If Krishna can just get rid of Narakasura. So that's why there are some other types of stories which goes on to say that, so Bhumi Devi gets a boon. First of all, Narakasura gets a boon from Brahma. They all do penance and then they all ask for first immortality, and then Brahma says that's not possible. Then they ask for some very difficult way that they will get killed, right? So Narakasura says very specifically, I should be killed by my mother. So no mother will ever kill her child. So he says, I have to be killed by my mother. That's how it is. And then at the same time, Bhumi Devi also gets a blessing from Mahavishnu or something saying that my son will only die when I wish that he dies. Right? So not necessarily being killed, but when he wishes that he dies. So there are different theories behind it, right? So anyway, so here, because he has this control, right, that he can only be killed by his mother, or his mother has to wish, he then goes on a rampage, right? And he's doing a lot of these things. So finally, when Krishna comes to battle and they battle each other, he finally sends a Shakti missile towards Krishna, and Krishna then takes it on him and pretends to be completely impacted by it and becomes unconscious. So when he becomes unconscious, then Satyabhama, like we said, who is one of the incarnation of Bhumi Devi, she then gets very agitated and she then says that how can this person hurt my husband? And then she wishes that Narakasura dies, and she also has some hand in this. Either she fires a arrow or something. I don't know, a lot of stories there on that. But at the end of the day, she also wishes that Narakasura gets killed. Right, and that's how Krishna is able to get rid of Narakasura, because that was the boon that Narakasura had. That was the reason Satyabhama ends up going. Otherwise, there was no reason for Satyabhama to go. Krishna could have just gone and gotten rid of Narakasura, just like how he killed Mura, right, in the first thing. So anyway, that is what is happening. By doing this, you then get rid of Narakasura. So Murastvam Panchasyo, comma, Jaladhi Vana Madhyad Udapatat. Madhyad Udapatat, comma. Sa Chakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata. So no comma there. Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladivana Madhyadudapatate Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata.
Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladi Vana Madhya Dudapatat Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata. Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladi Vana Madhya Dudapatat Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata.
Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladhivana Madhyadudapatat Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata. Murastvam Panchasyo Jaladhivana Madhyadudapatat Sachakre Chakrena Pradalita Shira Mangshu Bhavata.
Chatur Dantair. Dantavala. Chatur Dantair. So the elephant in which Narakasura comes has got 4 tusks. So Chatur Dantair Dantavala Patibhir Indhana. If you want to break it. Patibhir Indhana Samaram. Comma. That line is continuous. Rathangena Chitwa. Comma. Narakam Akharos Tirna Narakam. Chaturdantair Dantavalapatibhirindana Samaram Ratangena Chitwa Narakamakaros Tirna Narakam.
Chaturdante Dantavalapatibhirin Dhana Samaram Rathangena Chitva Narakamakaros Tirna Narakam. Chaturdante Dantavalapatibhirin Dhana Samaram Rathangena Chitva Narakamakaros Tirna Narakam.
Chaturdantair Dantavalapatibhirindhana Samaram Rathangena Chitva Narakamakarothirna Narakam. Chaturdantair Dantavalapatibhirindhana Samaram Rathangena Chitva Narakamakarostirna Narakam.
Let's just do one more and we'll stop. Stuto bhumya rajyam sapadi bhagadattesya tanahe gajanchaikam dattva prajighaita nagan nijapurim khalena baddhanam swagata manasam shodasha punas sahasrani strinam apicha dhanarashim cha vipulam. So Bhumi Devi then comes and then she sings stuti, she praises Krishna here, and then Krishna then gets that earring, right, of Aditi which Narakasura has, and then along with it, then what he does is Narakasura has a son called Bhagadatta. He gives the kingdom to him, and then also what Narakasura has done is he had captured 16,000 women and held them hostage, right? And these are women who ranged in all ages, with people who were in their 70s or really old women to really young, right? So all ranges of women were actually held hostage by Narakasura. So then Krishna rescues all of them and then brings them to Dwaraka. So that's why the count, they say 16,008, they're saying is that the 16,000 is where it is coming from. Not necessarily that Krishna is marrying these women, right? He is rescuing them and then he's keeping them in his protection in Dwaraka. So he then, along with all the things that was there, they all come back to Dwaraka. Stuto bhumya, comma, rajyam sapadi bhagadattesya tanaye, comma, gajanchaikam dattva, comma, prajighaitha nagan nijapurim. Stuto bhumya rajyam sapadi bhagadattesya tanaye gajanchaikam dattva prajighaitha nagan nijapurim.
स्तुतो भूमा
Bhumya.
राज्यं भूम्या स्तुतो भूम्या राज्यं सपति भगदत्तेस्य तनये गजेञ्चैकं दत्त्वा प्रजिगयित नागानिजपुरीं स्तुतो भूम्या राज्यं सपति भगदत्तेस्य तनये गजेञ्चैकं दत्त्वा प्रजिगयित नागानिजपुरीं.
After the Bhumya, there is a comma, okay? First line.
Okay.
स्तुतो भूम्या राज्यं सपदि भगदत्तेस्य तनये गजं चैकं दत्त्वा प्रजिघैथनागान्निजपुरीम् स्तुतो भूम्या राज्यं सपदि भगदत्तेस्य तनये गजं चैकं दत्त्वा प्रजिघैथनागान्निजपुरीम्
Khalena baddhanam, comma, swagata manasam shodasha punaha. You put a is and then a plus. Shodasha punas sahasrani strinamapi cha. So shodasha 16 puna like times sahasrani 1000, so 16,000. Shodasha punas sahasrani strinamapi cha, comma, dhana rashim cha vipulam. Khalena baddhanam swagata manasam shodasha punas sahasrani strinamapi cha dhana rashim cha vipulam.
After cha, is there a comma?
Yeah, there's a comma after cha.
खलेना बद्धानां स्वगत मनसां षोडश पुनः सहस्राणि स्त्रीणाम् अपि च धनराशिं च विपुलाम् विपुलं
Yeah, vipulam.
खलेना बद्धानां स्वगत मनसां षोडश पुनः सहस्राणि स्त्रीणाम् अपि च धनराशिं च विपुलम्.
खलेना बद्धानां स्वगतमनसां षोडश पुनः सहस्राणि स्त्रीणामपि च धनराशिं च विपुलम् खलेना बद्धानां स्वगतमनसां षोडश पुनः सहस्राणि स्त्रीणामपि च धनराशिं च विपुलम्.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. End the class here today. Sandhranandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadebhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurupurushartatmakam brahmatattvam tattavadbhati sakshat gurupavanapure hanta bhagyam jananam कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना भा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.